Baxter here with HB Ministries. Welcome to my channel. This is the Psalms 23 series. For those that are here for the first time, I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and check the intro. I will put the link right below, and that'll explain everything about this series, and it'll teach you how to get the best out of it. I go ahead and post weekly one of the verses out of Psalms 23. So what our goal is to take all of Psalms 23 verse by verse by verse, and by the end, know Psalms 23 verses 1 through 6 in its entirety. Really understand what God is teaching us about the shepherd and the sheep. So again, we only do one verse together, and we really look at that verse. We look at the words. We look at the analogy between a sheep and a shepherd, and we really look at how God wants to care and love for us. And so again, that is all in the introductory video. I'm encouraging you to check that out. Every single lesson, I leave a PDF with about 10 questions for you to be working on during the week as you're thinking about that verse and letting it really resonate and trying to gain wisdom and knowledge about that verse for your life in the season that you're in. How is God trying to lead you? How is He trying to guide you? Where is He trying to keep you protected? How is He trying to calm your anxiety? There's so many ways that we can branch off with each verse according to each individual's life. So it will become very personal for you. And my goal and my prayer is that you begin to hear the shepherd's voice. So those questions that you're going to work on in your journal during the week are going to help you really understand that one verse that you're focusing on for the entire week. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, I'm encouraging you to start a community group. Again, that's in the introductory video. So ladies, if you're joining together today to listen to the next verse, I'm excited that you're in a group. I'm hoping that God's just going to speak to you as you guys all talk about your questions from the last video. So again, thanks for allowing me to come into your home and teach you, and I know that you're going to be blessed by this. So you guys just pause the video right now and go ahead and read Psalms 23, 1 through 6. Read the whole verse in its entirety. And then go ahead for today's video, we're going to look at just verse 2. So again, I want you to read 1 through 6. Then I want you to stop and read just verse 2. And then go ahead and push play, and I'm going to pick right up on today's lesson, which is verse 2. And we are going to start right now, and I'm going to read verse 2. I know that you guys did this in your quiet time, but I'm just going to do it to help me get into the flow. So it says, He makes me lie down in green pastures, and He leads me beside quiet waters. And I'm encouraging you to go ahead this week and look at several translations. Maybe go into the New King James, the New Living Translations, the American Standard. Go ahead and look at a couple of those, because I just want you to see how the word quiet changes to peaceful, changes to still. You'll notice that some of the terminology in the verses are just changed up, and it'll give you a variety of what God is trying to show you that He wants to bring into your life this week. So again, go ahead each day, maybe say, I'm going to look at this translation. Circle the words that are changing, and look, they're all similar. They're going to mean the same thing, but it's just changed up a little, and it can really broaden our understanding. It can really increase our wisdom. So I'm encouraging you to go ahead and look them up in different translations. Okay, let's dive into this. I want to start by saying this. I was going through my journals probably about 6 months ago, and I was reminded this week to go back and dig to find that one phrase. One Easter service, I heard a pastor say this. Get your pens ready and write this down. But it said, He pierced His hand to create a pasture for our soul. He pierced His hands to create a pasture for our soul. And the whole message that Easter, because it was in my journal, and I keep my journals year after year, and all my Sunday services are in there, what he spoke on was how God went to the cross just to become alive in our lives today. He knew what our today was going to be about, and he wanted a relationship with us. And that is a beautiful, beautiful picture of what we're going to study today in verse 2. It's all about how he wants to provide and just love on us in our season. Now, if you're doing this alone or you're doing this in a small group, I can guarantee you we're all in a different season. Remember the illustration that I constantly keep bringing us back to, how the shepherd keeps the sheep moving. Let's take a look at that again. I'm going to continue talking, but let's look at this picture. Do you notice that I have all the seasons in there, from fall to winter to spring to summer? Fall, winter, spring, summer. And it is the goal of a shepherd to keep that sheep moving. And today's message will explain why in certain parts it's important to keep the sheep moving. Because that shepherd knows what season is coming, and he knows how to best care for his sheep. And the same thing goes with God in our life. He knows our season that we're in, and he knows the season to come. So if he's bringing new people in your life, maybe he's moving you to a new church, maybe he brought a new family in your life. Whatever it is, he knows the season to come in your life. You know, it's interesting sometimes God plants people in our life because he's at work upstream. He knows what's happening in the next season. So I find that to be so awesome when I look back at my life. Go ahead and look back at your life this week and think about the people God put in your life to prepare you for the season that you're in or that you went through, or be thinking that you may be going through. So he's always at work in our life. And his whole goal is to create a pasture of peace, still waters, green meadows, so he can take care of us in abundant. He came to give us life abundant, no matter what season we're in, no matter if we're in the depth of winter or if we're down in the valleys. He is going to bring us abundant joy and peace. So let's go ahead and look a little bit further into this verse. In last week's message, I talked about the fence and the two sheep on both sides. This is another great analogy that I want you to just think about, because the Lord is so excited to just get into a relationship. He's infatuated with you. He wants to have a relationship day by day, minute by minute with us. And so think about that analogy of the sheep on both sides of the fence. The ones that are all matted and dirty, and they're thirsty, and they're picking at ground that's now rubble, because they've went through all the grass. I mean, they've all ate everything, so there's nothing left. Now they're basically walking around in dry dirt, just trying to pick around to find something to satisfy them. And here they are looking through the fence at the other side and looking at all of these sheep just lavishly hanging out in the flowers, maybe resting by still waters, and eating big, thick pieces of green meadow. And they're just probably drooling. I mean, think about this. They're probably looking through the fence like, man, I want that grass over there. Now, what I'm trying to say is we do this in life too. Come on now. I remember when I first became a Christian, when I first really walked into that relationship with God, there was so much havoc in my life. Just so much. Young mom, raising kids, struggling with my marriage. And I would often look at the other moms coming into church carrying their carriers, or let me put it this way. Their husbands are carrying their carriers, and they're all dressed to the T. They're all dressed cute. Everything looks lovely. I'm sure they had no arguments in the minivan. And I felt like the sheep that was kind of going through the fence like, gosh, look at her. Her husband came to church with her. Oh my goodness, look at her nice clothes. Oh, her kids seem so polite. They must pray at dinner. Okay, so I'm just giving you a scenario of things I thought about. I was the sheep on the other side, desiring some of the things. I don't want to say envy, but I was desiring that my life would just get in order, that things would just shape up. And you know, it's all a process. God is working things in each season. He's growing us. And I can honestly say now that I can look back at my life and I am on the other side of the fence. It was almost as if God put friends in my life to say, Heather, over here. Those Christian friends that looked better, that their husbands were loving them better. And now I'm here to say there's no perfect family. There's no perfect marriage. But there is a peace, and there is a quietness, and there is a stillness, and there is a joy on the other side of the fence, regardless of what you're going through. And I'm going to share that in today's lesson. So I'm hoping that we just can use that analogy a lot, because I love that analogy of the sheep on two sides of the fence. So be thinking about it this week. If you're going through something on Wednesday or Thursday, think about how much worse it really could be. You really could be on the other side of the fence, but know right now, get this straight in your soul and in your spirit. With Christ, with you saying that you are my shepherd, you're all that I want, know that he's going to supply every need, and you are okay. You are living on the right side of the fence. So maybe that's all you need to do to encourage yourself during the week, is just to say, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I know he's going to provide. I know he's going to put a flower right in the pasture right when I need it. And that's just how God operates. We just got to learn to have faith and trust him in whatever season that we're in. He invites us all to follow him. He does not force us. He just invites us. He wants to clear all of our life for us. And I was thinking about 4 things when I was putting this message together. 4 areas where I really noticed God go to work in my life. I struggled with a lot of unbelief. I struggled with unbelief when I came back to my marriage, thinking, what if he does this again? I don't know if I can trust him. I don't know, is God really at work here? A lot of unbelief was going on. And the Lord cleared all of that rubbish, all of that rubble, all those little stones of unbelief. The Lord cleared it. As I stayed obedient in his word, as I stayed obedient in prayer with my ladies in small group, as I continued to grow, he cleared the rubble of unbelief. And that's important. He wanted me to understand that I can trust him, and I can trust that he's doing a work in my husband's life. And if he was not, and there was danger, I can trust that the Lord was going to lead me. We have to be really careful about what we're doing in each season in our life. What is God removing, and what is he bringing in? And how is he going to work that? So it's important to have a shepherd, because he knows what's going on. And so a lot of times I think here in today's world, we just make all the decisions ourselves, and we end up in a bigger mess. So again, he wants to clear all of the rubble of unbelief. He also wants to go ahead and get the roots of bitterness out. If we don't get the roots out and really clean the garden, it's hard to have fresh growth. And so he's all about getting the roots of bitterness out in our relationships, in our own heart. Maybe we're struggling with something in our own personal life. Bitterness that is just rooted deeply. He knows how to take care of each sheep. He knows what they need. He also knows how to break up hard ground. Now, we all know that we can't plant a garden on just hard ground with no fresh soil. And God knows how to break up the hard grounds in our life to get fresh things planted. And so you might be going through a season where the Lord is really breaking ground in your house, in your household, in your relationships, in your marriage. Because when we went through that rocky season, the Lord was breaking ground in our marriage. He was breaking ground so he could sow some bigger things, so we could come to faith even stronger. And so maybe you're in the season of breaking ground. In that season, accept it, because it is a season where God is at work. He is your shepherd, and you shall not want. It may seem really hard, because that ground is hard as he's breaking it up. But know right now that he's creating a green pasture and still waters for you. So sometimes we need to go through that. But as we're going through that, the Lord will always give us the water of his Spirit. And we know that we need water in the pasture for the grass to become green. So the Lord knows how to water us in every season so that we can continue to grow. So I just wanted to kind of give you that little analogy about the rubble of unbelief, about the roots of bitterness, about the hard grounds that he may be breaking up, and about the water that he's always raining down on us with his Spirit. All of that's taking place in our pasture. So I want you to be thinking this week, when you go back and look at the questions, what is the Lord doing? How is he moving rocks of unbelief? How is he destroying roots of bitterness? Am I allowing him in to break ground? Am I allowing myself to be present in his Spirit, to get still, to set apart some time so he can water my soul, so I'm able to see with spiritual eyes and not just the eyes of flesh, which at that point, listen, if a sheep is going to lead himself along the trail, he's going to get lost. I want to give you a really neat analogy about sheep that I looked up this week. I remembered it when I was actually reading the book, A Shepherd's Look at Psalms 23. I'm going to leave the link for that book below. I'm hoping that you're reading that along with this series. It's a short, sweet little book, but it really gets into the deeper analogies of a sheep and a shepherd, and it'll go beautifully with this study. So if you do not have that book, the link's below, and here's a picture of it right here. Go ahead and take a look at that. But in today's verse it says, He maketh me lie down. I love that part. He maketh me lie down. And I want you to think about the part that He makes me lie down. Because I want you to think in today's world, we live a very busy, hectic, adrenaline-filled life. It's like we've got to constantly be busy in order to accomplish things. And when that is happening in life, it's really hard to seek after that relationship with God. We often miss out on the fact that He is breaking up ground. He's digging up roots. He's cleaning the little rocks away so we can have a nice pasture. We miss His presence. We miss His presence. And we, by our own faults, stay on the other side of the fence. And so He tells us in this verse that He makes us lie down in green pastures. He wants us to set apart time to be with Him. I found this to be so interesting that, okay, we know that sheep aren't very smart. We know that. Did you know that they needed to be forced to take a rest? They do not naturally lay down. And I've explained that in the introductory video that they're very anxious and very nervous animals. And so they have to be forced by their shepherd to lay down. So it's interesting to know that if sheep need to be forced to rest, what about us? If we're living this busy life, working full-time, taking care of kids, everything's on our to-do list, we don't naturally rest. We need to be forced to rest. We need to teach ourselves discipline and just setting apart time to sit still. Now, I will be 100% honest and let you know that is really hard for me. I have a routine that gets me in the Word and just gets me to a place where I am being fed. I'm getting there where I can hear a word from God. So if He is breaking ground, if He is digging up some roots of bitterness, if He's trying to open my eyes in a certain area, I'm aware of it because I spent time with Him. I will be able to hear His voice during the day. Now, on the days that I do not, and I am frantic over life's schedule, I miss Him. I missed the opportunity to hear what He needed to say to me for that day. And you'll realize in the questions, the PDF questions again that are going to be below, I'm talking a little bit about Sabbath in those questions, about setting apart time. Why did God allow us to work and then said rest? There is a reason. When we rest, we can engage better. Our relationships are stronger. The house is better. Our marriage is stronger. So there's a reason God's designed rest. Here's another cool thing about sheep. If sheep are left in a certain pasture, they will continue to eat on the dirt. They have no idea that there is better pasture over there. So they'll continue to just eat away until all the green pasture is gone, and then they'll eat at the rubble. All of the dirt and the hard ground, they'll just stay there unless the shepherd moves them along to another green pasture. And so that's a little bit like us too. We get in our comfort zone and we just stay feeding in the same pasture. And sometimes we don't even realize that there's greener grass over there. And the last fact about sheep this week is they are afraid. This is so funny. I just think they are afraid to go to water that is moving. They will only go and drink out of still water. Moving water makes them anxious. Now let's think about us a little bit, because I find that that's really true again for me personally. Some situations will make me anxious, and the Lord knows where to take us to bring us to the right still waters in our lives. He knows how to quench our thirst. Even if we're feeling anxious, even if there's fear, He knows how to quench our thirst, and He will take us to a place that's peaceful. He's not going to take us to a place to create more anxiety. I love that about God's love. I also love the fact that He leads us to still waters. Many times in life, I've ended up in troubled waters, in waters over my head. And I'm sure you guys can all sit here and say, yes, I've been in those situations where you're just so troubled that you're in troubled waters. I mean, you are in over your head. And I just love that the Lord already knows how to lead you, because this verse says he leads you to still waters. But are we allowing him to lead us? Or have we just kind of went on this little adventure, this journey ourselves, and we're just kind of trucking along and we end up in troubled waters in our marriage? We end up in troubled waters with our children, our finances, and the list can go on, and I'm sure you even have your own list. I know that I ended up in troubled waters with my marriage because I wasn't allowing the Lord to lead me in the first place. Heather was leading herself. Heather was leading herself into places of the world. My husband was doing the same. And so without a shepherd leading you into the right things, into the will of God, we end up in troubled waters. And so that was a whole area of my life that I just needed to learn to kind of fall under the leadership of my shepherd. And when I first came to know Christ, that took time. That took time. So he wants to lead you today to the still waters. Be thinking this week where he's leading you, where he wants to take you from. Are you in troubled waters right now? Are you feel like you're just trying to keep your head up so you can stay breathing and kind of treading the water? Allow him, sit in his presence, set apart some time to find that rest, and allow him to lead you into your Monday. Allow him to lead you into your Tuesday. Watch him bring you to the next still water that is perfect for you. Again, it may mean leaving your comfort zone, because many times we cannot stay in our comfort zone and feed off of the same grass because it's going to become bare and dry and we're going to hit hard ground, and we need to allow the Lord to move us so he can replenish the meadows there. So sometimes we need to keep moving. So maybe he's in a place of moving you out of your comfort zone. So when the Lord is leading us to still waters, which is new circumstances, again, fresh grass in our life, fresh pasture, he wants us to lie down. He wants us to lie down and trust him. So is there something in your life today that is unsettling? Because remember, a sheep cannot lay down if it's feeling anxious or afraid or very fearful. And so they do not rest unless they're forced to lie down by their shepherd. So many times the Lord moves us to a place and he makes us lie down. But a lot of times in order to lay down and really get comfortable, we need to lay down some unsettling things emotionally, physically, and mentally. And so what I'm asking you today are, what are some things that are unsettled in your life that you need to lie down? Take the week and think about this question. It will be in your PDF, because sometimes we have a hard time finding rest. We have a hard time with change. We have a hard time going to a new place to learn because we're so controlled by what's already unsettled in our lives. When you lay down those things in your life that's troubling you, you give it to God, and it really denotes a sense of accomplishment. You feel like, okay, I've checked that off. I've laid it down at his feet. I have laid it down. So it's another way of looking at this verse. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. What is he asking you to lay down this week? Is he asking you to lay down a decision that you have to make? Lay down some confusion maybe that you're having in the workplace. Lay it down and just know right now that that should bring peace. Right there should bring peace in your pasture, to know that you laid it down because he's going to provide for you. He's going to lead you, or he's going to bring somebody in. It just denotes a sense of accomplishment. It's a sense of routine. And that's many times what the faith looks like, is a sense of routine. Going to church and getting a word from God. Keep our journey moving just like the sheep. Getting to small group during the week. Getting a word from God. Keeping us moving in routine. So we're getting a fresh word. We're constantly moving and moving. He wants to keep us moving on the back ends of the countryside. He has great plans for us. I'm encouraging you to try to create a routine this week. Go ahead and spend some set apart quiet time where you're resting in his presence. Allow him to lead you. Allow him to make you lay down. Listen to his voice when he tells you to lay down situations in your life. He wants to bring ultimate rest. So thanks again, ladies. Have a great week and be blessed.